Alright. You guys have made it pretty clear. You want build videos, so we're gonna do build videos until you're blue in the face. I know, but seriously, this video is going to be about a build. A hunter build, in fact. And no, it does not involve still hunt, believe it or not. Builds without still hunt do exist in this world. I know, it's shocking. So this build, as the thumbnail would suggest, is about control. The king of control, in fact. Now, the concept is not anything new or groundbreaking. This dates back way long ago when we just had simple Assassin's Cal builds pre-Lightfall. In this version, we just have the power creep cranked up to an 11. Now, this is a prismatic hunter build, so it can go 27 different ways, depending on what you like to use. But the general core concept of this is to utilize a melee-based crowd control build, and as the thumbnail would suggest, you can use either Liar's Handshake, or Caliban's Hand, or if you're really lucky with your exotic class item farming, you can use both together. And if you happen to get only one of them, that's totally fine. You can kind of move your build around a little bit to micromanage. So for example, in this video you're going to be watching, I am running the Liar's Handshake variant of the build with assistance from Assassin's Cal, but if you wanted to, or didn't have Assassin's Cal with your Liars to pair, you could just replace Assassin's Cal with an aspect in your Prismatic Hunter kit, using Stylus Executioner to make yourself invisible instead. But this build doesn't simply punch things. This build genuinely does like 8 different things at once. First, how do you start your loop? You need to get your combination blow, which is going to be your melee of choice in this build, up to X3 to maximize your damage with Liar's Handshake. Now, once you get the motor going, all bets are off, and you could basically do whatever the hell you want to anything on the battlefield, champions, bosses, whatever. Before I go over the gameplay loop of this, let me just give you a list of things that this build can accomplish in a matter of seconds. Here we go. So, you can two-shot champions thanks to combination blow in GM settings. You can either slow or freeze enemies thanks to our abilities and our kit. You can also ignite enemies thanks to our kit. You can also be radiant the entire time in incredible ease thanks to just punching something with this kit. You can be constantly amplified or constantly have woven mail depending on the super you like to pick between Storm's Edge and Silk Strike. Personally, I think Silk Strike is the better way to go for the additional damage resist with woven mail. Speaking of damage resist, we also have a fragment that gives us additional damage resist when we're surrounded by combatants, which can be literally the entirety of any GM that you'd like. Our kit also allows us to do bonus ability damage with light abilities when a target is affected by a darkness debuff, in this case stasis, which we do constantly as well. And lastly, this build is just extremely flexible. You can move around several things and still have the core concept intact. For example, let's talk about our aspects. In these aspect slots, I think there's only one guarantee that you should run, and that is Winter's Shroud, because of the capabilities of you having a slow, a potential freeze. Every time that you dodge, you gain darkness energy because you're slowing enemies and then killing them with your light ability, and then getting light energy from that. Also, it helps you get back your class ability in the event that you mess up your combination, and you need to actually get another dodge back to get your melee back. So that's also very good. Now, the other slot in aspects with Winter's Shroud could basically be whatever you want. You could put Gunpowder Gamble, you could put Ascension, you could put Stylus Executioner if you don't have Spirit of Assassin on your class item. It is really up to player preference. You could even put Threaded Spectre too if you want extra clones on the field for additional explosions. For our abilities and our dodge, we want to have Gambler's Dodge on to get back our melee every single time that we do dodge to continue the combination blow special. Our jump doesn't matter, you can do whatever you want. Our melee is combination blow, as explained before, for our nuke melees, essentially on everything in the arena besides a boss and a GM. And then finally, in our grenade, I personally went with Duskfield just to, again, slow and freeze enemies, build up darkness energy very easily, have that target take bonus damage from my melees when I do hit them. But if you'd like, you could switch this out for utility. For example, you could put on Strand Grapple if you want to just move around the arena that much faster, or if you're trying to maybe do a little speed run of a GM, anything like that. You could switch it up if you'd like. Now, I'll get to fragments in a second here. I just want to quickly explain the gameplay loop. Essentially, your first mission is going to be finding a very squishy ad to start building up your combination blow. So you want to start with like a Dreg, a Thrall, a Vandal, something like that. And then as you keep going up to X3, then you go for the big boys. Once you do this and you get your initial melee in, you're going to dodge before the next enemy to get another melee back. this will start building up your darkness energy. Then you can combination blow for X2 and then X3. Now, while you're doing your combination blow melee kills, every single time that you do, you're going to be getting radiant as well. I'll explain that in a second. Every time that you kill said enemy with your melee, you're going to make an orb of power. When you get an orb of power, you will get instant woven mail or amplified. Again, that'll be explained in a second with the fragments. And every time that you slow or freeze an enemy, whether it's through your dodge, dust field, or even your prismatic grenade, you will then do bonus damage with your light abilities, in this case arc for Liar's Handshake and combination blow. And the reason for that is the fragments and mods that we have equipped, which are the following. For fragments, the first one is Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs, in this case Stasis, which we have Dodge, Dust Field, and Prismatic Grenade. Then we have Facet of Protection. While surrounded by combatants, which is literally the entire time, you are more resistant to incoming damage, and while you're Transcendent, the effect is increased. Third, Facet of Devotion. Defeating targets afflicted with Stasis or Strand debuffs grants bonus light Transcendent energy. So you dodge on them, you make them slowed, then you hit them with your melee, boom, they're dead, more bonus light energy. Number 4, Facet of Dawn. Powered melee hits against targets make you radiant. Powered melee final blows make you and your nearby allies radiant. So every time that you dodge into a melee punch, you will then make yourself radiant and thus do bonus damage for doing basically nothing. 5th, Facet of Ruin. Increase the size and damage of the burst of when you shatter a stasis crystal or a frozen enemy. So off your dodge, off dust field, off the prismatic grenade. And also, you have an increased area of effect for solar ignitions, whether it's through having the Caliban's hand part of the class item with Liars, or just having your prismatic grenade ignite an enemy and just having a bigger area of effect. And finally, we have Facet of Purpose. Picking up more of power grants either Amplified, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or Overshield, depending on the damage type of your equipped super. Now, basically, you can go one of 3 ways here. You can either go Storm's Edge and then have Amplified most of the time in an entire run for a GM, or you can go Woven Mail with Silk Strike and have big damage resist the entirety of an activity, which helps you survive, which is always good, obviously. Or if you like to be the support player and have a tether on your team to debuff, let's say, a boss, like Nabona in the Disgraced GM, then you can go tether and also have an overshield through this fragment. Now, while you've been watching this background footage, you may have noticed that it's incredibly easy to build up your Prismatic just by utilizing your abilities through the build that we just talked about. And in your Transcendence, a lot of people seem to forget or just straight up not know, once you pop it, you get additional damage resist just for being in Transcendence, and also you get bonus weapon damage while you're in it as well. So if you're not running something like Tractor Cannon 1-2 Punch that you would see in this footage, if you're utilizing like a DPS weapon, then once you do get Transcendence, you can fire off that DPS weapon while getting a free 5% damage boost for just popping your Transcendence. That's it. And low-key, the grenade, it's actually pretty good. Can you believe that there were actual game publications that got codes for Final Shape before it came out to review it, and they said the Hunter Grenade was bad? Yeah, I think they were like sniffing oregano or something while playing Final Shape. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk mods. First, with the artifact, there's a couple of things that you could put on. First, there's Counter Energy. When you or a member of your fire team stuns a champion, you gain energy for your least charged ability in case something needs to come back. Then you've got Radiant Orbs. While you have a Solar or Prismatic subclass equipped, picking up an Orb of Power makes you Radiant. Galvanic Armor. While you have an Arc or Prismatic subclass equipped, incoming damage from commands is reduced while amplified. So if you do go with Storm's Edge as your super and you're constantly amped, this also gives you DR. Then we've got Shield Crush. When you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or Void Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. So if you go the Silk Strike route and you have Woven Mail, your melee does more damage. If you have Amp or Radiant, your grenades recharge faster and deal increased damage as well. Then we have Transference, gaining increased grenade and melee damage while Transcendent, which is extremely easy, and also Weapon Final Blows while Transcendent, refund Light and Dark energy after Transcendence ends. As for your mods, let's quickly go over each armor piece, starting at the top with your helmet. We have 3 mods here. The first one is pretty standard, Heavy Ammo Finder. The second is to complement that with Heavy Ammo Scout when you're playing with a fire team. And lastly, we have Hands On to gain bonus super energy on melee kills just to get to your super that much faster. In your gloves, whether it's actual Liar's Handshake or just a regular piece because you have Liars in your class item, you're going to have 3 copies of Heavy-Handed. The reason for 3 copies is because it makes the cooldown for it incredibly short, and you can make and maximize for as many orbs as you need to get to your super faster. For your chest, it's resist. It's always resist. 1 of each resist, and you move on to your boots. Now for your boots, you're not going to have surges on, you're going to have regen mods on. There's 3 mods, and the first one is recuperation, to replenish health each time you pick up an orb, which happens all the time. Second is better already. Your health begins to regenerate immediately after picking up an orb of power. And lastly, absolution, reduce all ability cooldowns each time you pick up an orb of power, which again is constant. And in your class item, we have 3 mods. The first is bomber, to reduce grenade cooldown when using your class ability, when you're breakdancing all over the arena 80 million times. Number 2 is going to be distribution, reduce all ability cooldowns when using your class ability near targets, same joke here. And then finally, powerful attraction, for when you do dodge, you will scoop up orbs of power nearby you. So in the event that you punch something, you made an orb, but for some reason you didn't quite get it, next time when you dodge, you will just scoop it up anyway. And to wrap this up, weapon-wise, you can do whatever the hell you want, basically. If you're gonna do an activity where there's champions, then just align your weapons with champion-related mods. So in this case, the case is going to be on barrier champions and unstoppable champions. So for example, you can run Levy's Breath because it hits like a truck, but also you can stun unstoppable champions with it if you'd like, or you can go the route of, like me, running Tractor to debuff enemies / the boss to make that chunky health bar phase a little less chunky on Navoda. Everything else is fair game to do whatever the hell you want. And as always, I'm going to leave this build in the description below as a dim link in case you want to try it out yourself. Let me know what you guys think. In the meantime, if you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow and is much appreciated on the way to 50k. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, you could leave a like and or comment below as well. If you don't know what to comment, you could leave, let's see, Hunter Priz as the comment. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.